Hi, I'm Rachel Kinsler. Welcome back to another episode of Eating Adventures. Today we're going to make soba pork soup with spinach. This dish is a great one. It's sort of like an Asian-inspired version of chicken noodle soup that you might get from your grandmother's recipe. It has the same kind of chicken broth in it as well as garlic, but it warms you up with the ginger. Really helps with your stomach. It can ease nausea as well as any kind of indigestion. And it's just very cozy. You get the noodles in there, they're robust. My daughter loves this dish. So this one is a really great one for a cold day or when you're just not feeling very well. The ingredients for this dish are a ½ pound ground pork, a bunch of scallions, whites and greens separated and thinly sliced, 4 garlic cloves minced or pressed in a garlic press, 1 to 2 tablespoons of fresh ginger root, peeled and minced, ½ a package or 4.4 ounces of soba noodles, 1 bunch of spinach leaves, destemmed and torn, 2 14.5 ounce cans of chicken broth, and 3 cups of water, and then fresh lime juice and soy sauce. First thing we're going to do is saute the pork until it browns, and then we'll add the aromatics in. Put your pork in, and we're going to let that saute for a while until it starts browning. Now you may need to adjust your temperature to account for, you don't want anything to burn, so keep it around medium. If you need to turn it up a little bit or lower, just keep your eye on it so nothing burns. We're going to add in the ginger, garlic, and the green onions. Now these are actually cooking in the fat of the pork. So this is one of those dishes that I've already changed from the original concept. I found a recipe I really liked, but I wanted to tweak it a little bit. So I've created it in this form, but there are other ways you can make it fit your needs. If you wanted to make it vegetarian, you would omit the pork and instead use vegetable oil to saute your aromatics. And of course you'd use vegetable broth instead of chicken broth in the later stages. Another very common thing that people might like is to add mushrooms in. You could use shiitake mushrooms or button mushrooms, and you would slice them thinly, cut the stems off, and then add them in with the aromatics that you're sauteing with the ginger, the garlic, and the onions before adding your broth. And that will add another level of dimension to your broth. This is the way I like to do it, but I always try and give people options so that they can find what works best for them. All right. Now that they have softened a little bit, we're going to add in our broth. And add the water to that. And we're going to bring this up to a boil. Now we're going to add our buckwheat noodles. Take off the wrapping. And then crush them up in your hands as you add them, so that you have little bite sizes later on. Now we're just going to let this cook for 5 minutes. You can turn your burner down to simmer. Now we're going to add in our spinach. These ones are fairly small leaves, but if you have larger ones, you'd want to tear them up. Just stir them into there, and they'll wilt into broth. At this point, you can turn your burner off. So even cooks who've done this many times can make mistakes as well. And I find that this probably would have been better had I torn them up more. but it still works fine. And sometimes you just have to go with what you've done. Doesn't change the taste of it, just makes a little bit more spinach in your mouth. Now we're gonna add in our lime juice and soy sauce. Now I've got a lot of lime juice here. That probably is a bit too much for this dish, so we'll just pour in a little bit. Like I said, maybe about 2 tablespoons or so. A little bit more. Otherwise, the lime can become too overwhelming. And finally, soy sauce. You can do 1 to 2 tablespoons of that in here. And you're always welcome to add more to your bowl if you want to give it a bit more kick. And there it is, our soup is finished. Now it's done, let's serve our soup. All right. So hopefully all little pieces come together, you got a good mix. Broth there. Just sprinkle it with a couple other onions if you like. Thanks again for joining me with Eating Adventures. My name is Rachel Kinsler. I'm one of the librarians at Essex Branch of Baltimore County Public Library. And if you'd like to learn more about any recipes, we can direct you to those books there. And I can also help you find this one online. Thank you again. We'll see you next month.